Hi everyone, my name is Abhiraj Garakapati. Welcome to my YouTube channel Amazing Abhi.
Choose your next adventure.
Reena turns her head, believing Logan has arrived. The door opens and she quickly clenches her skirt while preparing a charming smile. She begins greeting him warmly, saying it has been a long time since they last saw each other. However, her words stop halfway through when she notices something unexpected. Logan has entered while reading a document, not even looking at her. Only after finishing a line does he raise his eyes and casually say that it truly has been a while. He apologizes briefly, explaining that he is extremely busy with many responsibilities. Reena politely acknowledges that. Logan then asks what reason brought her there. Reena explains that she came to apologize for her past mistake and hopes to rebuild a relationship between their two families. Logan calmly responds that if she truly intends to reconcile, something important is missing. He asks whether Viscount Wolves himself should not be present, deliberately emphasizing the demotion of her house. Reena pauses before replying that her father is currently indisposed after struggling to protect their family. Logan sighs and remarks that this is unfortunate, adding that Chiron Wolves likely could not bear to bow his head before an old friend and his son. Logan then bluntly states that House McLean does not need assistance from House Wolves. Reena admits she is aware of that. Logan stands up and concludes that if that is the case, the conversation is finished. Reena quickly panics and asks Logan not to leave yet, saying there is still more to discuss. Logan tells her to speak quickly because he has no time to waste. Realizing her initial approach failed, Reena tightens her grip on her skirt and begins acting more emotional. She bites her lower lip and suddenly begins crying, saying she came to beg for Logan's help. She asks him to remember their past together and help her struggling family. Tears stream down her face as she blushes dramatically. Logan looks momentarily surprised and Reena immediately realizes she has caught him off guard. She wipes her tears and apologizes softly, claiming her emotions overwhelmed her. Beneath her lowered hair, she secretly smiles, convinced Logan has not forgotten her. Rockford notices that familiar expression on her face, while Logan struggles with sudden flashes of painful memories from his past life. Reena continues speaking, explaining that although House Wolves has fallen into hardship, they were once one of the kingdom's greatest merchant families. Their distribution networks and commercial knowledge still exist. Logan does not see the relevance, but Reena presses her hand against her chest and explains her proposal. If McLean partners with them, they could sell the new weapons developed by House McLean and generate profits 30 times greater than the costs. Realizing what she is trying to do, Logan grows irritated. He stands up from the couch and tells her that McLean can handle trade on its own. He asks her to leave. Desperate, Reena asks him to wait and reveals her final card. She offers her hand in marriage. If they marry, she explains, their families will be permanently bound together. Logan walks toward the door even faster, waving casually and thanking her for the offer, but saying he is not interested because he will be getting married soon. Reena smiles faintly and asks if this is because she once broke their engagement. She blames Duke Douglas, claiming he pressured her at the time, and even says she has documents proving it. Logan does not care and continues walking toward the exit. Seeing that nothing worked, Reena suddenly drops to her knees and begs Logan to stop. She asks if he never truly loved her. The question only makes Logan uncomfortable. Reena pushes further, saying that if his concern is his current fiancé, she would willingly become his concubine instead. She promises she would do anything he asks. Instead of reacting angrily, Logan suddenly bursts into uncontrollable laughter. Reena looks confused and asks if he is alright. Logan apologizes while wiping a tear from his eye, still laughing slightly. With his hand on the door handle, he calmly tells her that he has absolutely no interest in her anymore. Then he opens the door, politely tells her to take care on her way back and leaves her kneeling on the floor. Soon after, Reena and Rockford leave the room as well. As they walk through the corridor, Reena accidentally bumps into someone and falls to the floor. The person immediately apologizes and asks if she is all right. Ironically, the person she collided with is Eileen, Logan's fiancée, who politely says she should have been watching where she was going. Already frustrated, Reena angrily slaps Eileen's hand away and walks off with her knight, leaving Eileen confused about what just happened. Logan then appears from behind a nearby wall and asks Eileen if she came looking for him. As Rena walks away down the corridor, she hears Eileen speaking behind her. Eileen tells Logan that her mother invited the three of them to have tea together. Logan replies that he would be happy to join them tomorrow. Eileen tells him he does not need to force himself if he is busy, but Logan answers that when it comes to Eileen, there is no such thing as being too busy, because they are family. Hearing that conversation makes Rena furious. She storms away and slams the door behind her. Watching her leave, Eileen comments that Rena seems like a strong-willed woman and jokingly wonders if she might make a good knight. Logan, clearly annoyed, agrees that Rena certainly has a strong will. Eileen then asks about the documents Logan was reading earlier. Logan glances at the paper and explains that he has been considering the creation of a merchant guild for House McLean. Eileen sounds surprised, but quickly becomes excited, asking if that is why Logan has been so busy lately and whether she can help him somehow. Logan reassures her that it is fine and says he can assign the task to someone else. Inside his office, Logan has already gathered all the necessary documents and brings them to someone waiting there. The person sitting across from him is Philip, who looks completely stunned. Philip cannot believe that Logan is actually entrusting this responsibility to him. Logan calmly confirms that he is doing exactly that. He explains that he could not think of anyone better suited for the task, especially after seeing how Philip managed the impure situation earlier. Logan genuinely believes Philip has a natural talent for selling and managing trade. Because of that, Logan wants Philip to become the head of the McLean Merchant Group. Philip still looks unsure and asks Logan if he is truly serious about placing such trust in him. He wonders how Logan can rely on him so blindly. Then Philip suddenly remembers the contract that binds the two of them. His life technically belongs to Logan, which makes him someone Logan can easily trust. Logan then explains his first plan for the merchant group. He intends to start by selling the surplus grain stored in McLean's territories, which alone should generate at least 10 million gold. Logan tells Philip that all the required documents have already been prepared. He will also provide him with servants, guards, and workers to assist with the operation. Logan then casually reveals something that leaves Philip speechless. He tells Philip that he has 100 million gold coins in reserve that Philip can use. However, he sees fit to build the merchant group. Philip cannot even comprehend such an enormous sum of money. Logan adds that Philip will receive a commission of 0.5% of the profits, which immediately makes Philip stand up in shock. Philip asks Logan directly what he truly expects from him in return for such resources. Logan replies that he only wants two things. The first is obvious. He wants the Merchant Guild to become profitable. The second requirement, however, is much more serious. Logan wants Philip to establish trade routes and strong connections inside the Empire. Hearing that request leaves Philip momentarily speechless. He points out that many major merchant guilds already trade with the Empire, but Logan's wording suggests something far deeper than ordinary trade. Philip says that if Logan is speaking so directly about it, then he must be referring to something beyond normal commercial relations. Logan quietly notes that Philip is very perceptive. Philip then asks how deep Logan wants those connections to go. Logan replies that they must be deep enough to allow the exchange of information, or perhaps even secure unwavering loyalty. Before we move ahead, please take a second to like on this video. A like tells me that you enjoyed this topic. Your support helps Amazing Pie grow naturally. From influential figures, Logan admits that achieving something like that would be extremely difficult. In Logan's previous life, the legendary merchant known as the Gold Bug eventually became one of the 10 richest men in the world. But Logan knows he cannot expect that level of influence from Philip yet. Philip now belongs to House McLean, which makes him an outsider in the Empire. The situation is very different from the past when the Gold Bug had abandoned his homeland to gain status inside the Empire itself. For now, Logan simply wants to build influence within several imperial provinces before the inevitable war arrives. Philip tells Logan that such a mission will require both time and manpower. He explains that he would need at least 5 years and a powerful ally inside the Empire to help establish these connections. If Logan can provide someone like that, Philip says he will attempt the task. Hearing this makes Logan sweat slightly. He then tells Philip that the person he already invited fits that description perfectly. Philip is shocked and asks if Logan has already contacted such a figure. Logan confirms that he has. Philip realizes that only a handful of people in the entire kingdom possess the influence required for such connections. One of them was Bifrost, who died during the previous war. Another powerful merchant family was House Wolves, which has now fallen into ruin. That leaves only one other major family capable of providing such access. At that moment, the story briefly shifts to another scene. A desperate man can be seen begging Marion to save their family from ruin. Marion listens to him, but can only lower her head with sadness. Later, while walking beside Logan, Marion tells him to ignore those people. She explains that she has already said everything she needed to say as their daughter, implying that her duty toward them is finished. Logan reminds her that those same people abandoned them during the war with Tesseron. Despite that, Logan says he will not ignore them entirely. There is still something he intends to gain from them. Hearing that leaves Marion confused, unsure what Logan is planning next. Later, Logan asks Philip to offer his greetings and points toward the man who will assist him in his new task. Standing there is Varon Kairos, the successor of the powerful Kairos merchant group and the leader of the merchants who will support Philip's work. Philip looks surprised and asks if this is truly the Kairos family, the famous grain merchants. Logan smiles and asks if that is not an excellent connection to start with. He then prompts his uncle to greet Philip properly and introduces Philip Claude as the head of the new McLean merchant group. Varon shakes Philip's hand, but immediately makes a sharp remark, saying that at least Philip has a surname. He then asks Philip directly whether he is a noble. Philip calmly answers that he is only a commoner and does not even know who his ancestors were. Hearing that makes Varon frown slightly. He turns to Logan and asks if he really expects him to serve under a commoner. Logan simply asks whether Varon dislikes that idea. Then Logan reminds him that he probably cannot afford to refuse, adding that if Varon truly had the luxury to complain, it must mean the Kairos family is doing quite well after all. Realizing he has little choice, Varon reluctantly shakes Philip's hand again and says he will do his best to support him. Philip politely replies that he looks forward to working with Varon. A few days later, the banners of House McLean fly proudly above the estate as dozens of carriages prepare to depart. People in the nearby city watch the convoy with curiosity, asking what all those wagons are for. Someone explains that they belong to the newly formed merchant group and that Philip will be leading them. Just then, someone calls Philip's name from behind. Turning around, he sees Logan and Dwayne approaching. Philip says there was no need for them to come all the way out just to see him off. Logan replies that since he was the one who pushed Philip into this mission, it is only right that he personally says goodbye. Logan then adds that he also has something to give Philip before he leaves. Philip looks confused, unsure what Logan means. Logan pulls out a piece of paper and says that Philip forgot something important. When Philip sees it, he freezes. The document is his contract, the magical agreement that bound his life to Logan. As Logan holds the paper between his fingers, Philip cannot understand what is happening. Without hesitation, Logan tears the contract in half right in front of him. As the paper splits, a faint magical light appears and fades away, showing that the contract's binding power has been completely nullified. Logan tells Philip that although it is a bit late, this is his reward. Logan admits that he nearly forgot how much Philip has done for him all this time. Beside them, Dwayne smiles proudly and gives Philip a thumbs up. The gesture overwhelms Philip with emotion. Tears begin to well in his eyes as Logan formally calls him Philip, head of the McLean merchant group. Philip wipes his tears, but cannot hide his feelings. With determination in his voice, he promises Logan that he will do everything in his power to succeed. Logan and Dwayne simply smile at him as the convoy of merchant carriages finally leaves the castle. After watching the convoy disappear into the distance, Logan remarks that now that Philip has departed, it might be a good time to inspect their newly acquired territories. Dwayne asks whether Logan plans to travel to Killia personally. Logan shakes his head and says that he will actually be heading to Terran instead. Hearing that surprises Dwayne, who asks why Logan would want to visit such a barren wasteland. Logan reminds him that Mechlin territory used to be just as barren in the past. Dwayne then wonders if Logan plans to build another dam there like he did before. Logan says that might be possible, but first he needs to go there and check something for himself. As Logan watches the merchant convoy leave, Ronian approaches him. It looks like Ronian has been searching for him for quite some time. Logan assumes he came to see Philip off and asks if that is the reason he is here. However, Logan quickly notices something strange. Ronian looks messy, covered in dust and clearly exhausted. Logan immediately asks if he is sick, but after observing him more carefully, Logan realizes that something else is going on. Ronyan is not weak, he is actually much stronger. In fact, Logan can sense that Ronyan has reached the level of a higher-ranking Force user. Logan asks him what kind of training he has been doing, and warns him not to push himself too hard. Ronyan calmly replies that it has nothing to do with training. He says he simply found the answer after changing his mindset. Because of that realization, Ronyan has made a decision. Ronyan tells Logan that he intends to leave on a warrior's pilgrimage. Such a journey is a wandering trial where a warrior travels the world to sharpen both combat skills and personal judgment through experience. Although it sounds honorable, many who attempt it die along the way, which is why it has become rare in modern times. Logan cannot understand why Ronyan would willingly choose such a dangerous path. Ronyan explains that he has been thinking deeply about his place in the family and feels there is nothing meaningful left for him to do here. Logan immediately questions what he means. Ronyan already trains the knights and manages the security of their lands, but Ronyan insists that those are tasks Logan himself could easily handle. They are not truly what he is meant to do. Logan slowly realizes that this dissatisfaction must be what led Ronyan to make his decision. In truth, Ronyan would likely awaken or assume, even if he remained here. Logan then asks him directly who put this idea in his head, who convinced him to leave. To Logan's surprise, Ronyan says the answer is simple. Logan himself. Ronyan explains that it has always been this way. Logan has become the pillar of their family, but even before that, he was always Ronyan's anchor. Whenever their family faced hardship, Logan was always the first person to step forward and protect them. Because of that, Ronyan always stayed behind and trusted that Logan would handle everything. That faith carried him through countless battles, but now he believes it has become a burden holding him back. Ronyan confesses that if things continue like this, he will eventually become someone who only depends on Logan. He believes that would ultimately hold Logan back as well. Hearing this makes Logan struggle internally. He wants to deny Ronyan's reasoning. Instead, Logan tells him the opposite is true, that he himself might be the one preventing Ronyan from growing further. In Logan's previous life, Ronyan was destined to become the youngest Aura user in the kingdom, a result of the family's relentless effort to restore its former glory, but that future never happened. Ronyan awakened his force much earlier in this life and began learning the divine sword techniques. Yet somehow, he seems to have lost the burning motivation to grow stronger. Logan remembers the tragic fate Ronyan suffered in the past when he was killed by the Empire. Now that same brother stands before him, asking for his blessing. Logan wants to say something to stop him. However, after a moment of silence, he simply smiles. He realizes that the Ronyan standing in front of him now is not the same Ronyan from his past life. The next morning at dawn, Ronyan prepares to depart. Logan asks if the small amount of equipment he packed is really all he needs. Ronyan replies that it would have been nice to receive a grand farewell ceremony, but he promises he will only be gone for a short time. Marion, their mother, immediately questions that claim, reminding him that such pilgrimages can take years. She asks why he must go through something so dangerous. Ronyan laughs softly at her worry. Marion reminds him how many nights she cried when he left for battle in the past. Hatrick jokingly remarks that when he went to war, she only told him, "Good luck." Ronyan gently explains to his mother that this journey is necessary not only for himself. Before we move ahead, please take a second to share on this video. Sharing helps this video reach friends who may also enjoy anime, gaming, travel, cricket, chess, career basics, or personal stories. Your support helps Amazing Abhi grow naturally, but also for their family. Realizing she cannot change his mind, Marion begins to cry and begs him not to do anything reckless. Ronyan reassures her, even though Logan silently knows that danger will certainly await him. Still, Marion calms down enough to embrace him tightly. Ronyan smiles warmly and tells his family that he will be leaving now. Hatrick wishes him good luck, and Marion asks him to send letters whenever possible. As Ronyan walks away from the estate, he notices someone waiting further down the path. A voice calls out, asking how long it takes to say goodbye. The person waiting there is Victor, who has already prepared a horse for Ronyan. Victor says he thought Ronyan might forget that today was the day he planned to leave. The two stand face to face like brothers from other mothers. Victor warns him not to slack off during training. Ronyan replies that when he returns, he will defeat Victor with one hand. Victor mocks him and asks if he will even survive the journey, reminding him how dangerous the world truly is, and calling him a spoiled brat. Ronion laughs loudly at that and says everyone keeps underestimating him. Victor smiles as well. The two of them bump their fists together before Victor finally wishes him luck on his journey. Deep in a workshop, hidden within the woods, the loud echo of metal striking stone fills the air. A hammer repeatedly hits a block of rock as someone carefully chisels away at it. The person working is Hammer, who is completely focused on finishing another sculpture. As he works, he mutters that he can finally see the end of his 142nd noir. At that moment, Logan walks into the workshop and asks Hammer who exactly the statue represents. Without looking up from his work, Hammer explains that it is a woman he once loved 200 years ago, a beauty so extraordinary that even his current skill cannot perfectly recreate her. Logan curiously asks if she was really that beautiful. Hammer immediately replies yes and tells Logan to stop distracting him, because the eyes are the most important part of the statue. However, Logan steps even closer to inspect the sculpture, which only irritates Hammer further. That moment of distraction causes Hammer to strike the wrong pressure point on the stone. In an instant, the entire sculpture cracks and collapses, ruining the piece he had worked on for so long. Logan quickly insists that he did not actually do anything. Hammer angrily asks why Logan even came to see him in the first place. Logan calmly places a hand on Hammer's shoulder and says it looks like Hammer has plenty of free time now. Then he tells him that they need to go on a trip together. Hammer stands there silently, tears forming in his eyes as he looks at the destroyed statue. Later, the group is traveling across a vast stretch of barren desert toward an abandoned mining site. Hammer is clearly irritated with Logan and asks if this is really what Logan calls a trip, since there is absolutely nothing around them except sand and empty land. Hammer then notices Clayton traveling with them and asks how he ended up dragged into this situation as well. Clayton miserably explains that he has already spent all the money allocated for the Magic Tower research. Hammer cannot believe that amount of funding could disappear so quickly. Clayton says he had no choice because experimental materials alone cost millions, and most experiments fail anyway. As Clayton begins crying in frustration, Hammer awkwardly tries to comfort him. Logan watches the scene and asks why they are acting like this, when he already promised to support Clayton's research. He reminds them that if they successfully develop the Tarrant lands, the wealth they gain will make millions of gold feel like pocket change. Logan then asks them why they look so doubtful. After all, Terran used to be the kingdom's greatest mining city. Hammer responds that while that was true, it happened 200 years ago. Today, the area is nothing but barren land filled with abandoned mines. He asks what they could possibly hope to gain from such a place. Logan suddenly begins laughing and asks them what they think might still be hidden underground there. Without waiting for their answer, he declares that they are going to mine mana stones. Hearing that immediately changes both Clayton and Hammer's reactions. Clayton stares at him in disbelief and asks if there are really mana stones buried beneath this wasteland. Hammer, now completely energized, immediately asks where he should begin digging. Logan points toward them and proudly declares that the reason they came all this way is to find those mana stones. Clayton and Hammer slowly realize that Logan never actually confirmed that mana stones truly exist here. He might simply be guessing. In their minds, they start calling Logan a bastard for dragging them all the way into the desert without any proof that the mana stones are even there. Mana stones are considered the lifeblood of the magical world. They are essential materials used to create artifacts, magical scrolls, and communication orbs. Nearly every form of sorcery depends on them as a consumable fuel source, which makes their value immense. So immense that the discovery of a mana stone deposit can completely transform the fortune of an entire nation. However, this kind of discovery is also a dangerous double-edged sword. Revealing such a resource can easily attract the attention of powerful empires and accelerate an invasion. Even knowing this risk, Logan believes it is worth taking. From the memories of his past life, he knows the Empire invaded the kingdom specifically because mana stones were discovered in Terran. If he can claim those deposits first and complete the research on the Crownate, Terran could become the greatest weapons manufacturing center on the entire continent. After thinking through this plan, Logan turns toward Clayton and Hammer and simply tells them that it is time to begin digging. The project soon begins inside the abandoned mines of Terran. Clayton takes command of the excavation, summoning his earth golems to perform the heavy labor. The massive constructs smash through stone walls with their powerful fists, clearing pathways deep underground. Hammer watches the progress with growing satisfaction, noting that the operation is proceeding surprisingly smoothly. As the golems break through layers of rock, Clayton carefully uses his magic to stabilize the tunnels. With precise spells, he solidifies the surrounding earth and reinforces the walls to prevent collapses, ensuring the tunnels remain safe for the miners who will eventually work there. After some time, Logan enters the mine to inspect their progress. He brings food with him, carrying supplies he prepared himself for the workers. Watching Clayton control the operation impresses Logan greatly. He praises Clayton for his incredible ability to simultaneously stabilize the ground while controlling 40 golems at once, a display of magical skill that few mages could match. With this level of efficiency, Logan believes it will not take long for the mines to become fully operational. Clayton estimates that at their current pace, they could restore 120 mine shafts in just 4 days. During a break, the duo sit down to eat the sandwiches Logan brought with him. The moment they taste them, both Clayton and Hammer are completely stunned by how good the food tastes. Hammer jokingly remarks that Logan is unexpectedly talented at cooking for a nobleman, a skill he never expected him to possess. Clayton nods in agreement. Logan nearly reveals too much and begins explaining that he learned to cook back when he was a mercenary, but he quickly stops himself and changes his story, and casually claims that he once knew a mercenary who happened to be an excellent cook. Clayton looks puzzled by that explanation and wonders what kind of mercenary spends his time perfecting recipes in the kitchen. Several days later, the group descends deep into the 82nd mine shaft. They have been searching tirelessly for signs of mana stones, and Clayton urges everyone to keep moving because he believes they are getting close. Suddenly he stops and presses his hand firmly against the stone wall. His expression instantly changes to one of complete shock. Before Clayton can even explain what is happening, Logan asks if he senses something unusual. Clayton spreads his hands across the rock surface, his eyes wide with disbelief. After a moment, he confirms that the energy flowing through the stone is unmistakable. The wall contains a vein of mana stones. Overcome with excitement, Clayton begins shouting about the discovery, until Hammer quickly tells him to quiet down before he brings the entire tunnel crashing down. Logan shares their excitement as well. After all the effort, they have finally found the resource that will shape Terrance's future power. At the same time, back at the McLean estate, Dwayne is working in his office when a communication orb suddenly activates. Logan appears on the other side of the magical connection, looking messy and frantic. Dwayne is startled by Logan's appearance, but Logan immediately begins issuing orders without giving him time to ask questions. Logan instructs him to hire every available worker from Harun, including as many dwarves as possible, and send them to Terrance immediately. He emphasizes that it does not matter if they must pay more than usual. They desperately need manpower. Though confused by the urgency, Dwayne follows the orders without hesitation. Soon, a massive workforce arrives at Terrance, 5,000 laborers and 152 dwarves. Logan organizes the massive operation, ensuring that food supplies, tools, and materials are ready for the large-scale mining project. During this time, before we move ahead, please take a second to like on this video. A like tells me that you enjoyed this topic. Your support helps Amazing Apai grow naturally. He also contacts his master, Felix, through a communication orb to report on the development of Terrance. Felix praises Logan for his dedication in rebuilding the abandoned mining region. When Felix asks whether Logan discovered anything valuable, Logan deliberately hides the truth about the mana stones and instead claims he only found deposits of steel and copper. Meanwhile, the arriving dwarves are introduced to Lord Hammer, who begins guiding them around the site. Logan then shifts the conversation toward the king's response to his earlier reports. Felix asks if Logan has not received a direct reply from the king again. Logan explains that he has not contacted the king directly because he believed it was more appropriate to report through Felix. Realizing that Logan does not know about the king's current situation, Felix chooses to hide the truth. Instead, He reassures Logan that the king views his efforts very positively, although the tone of his voice leaves Logan somewhat curious. Unfortunately, Felix also brings troubling news. The crown's finances are currently strained, so the royal court cannot provide any direct financial support. Logan silently wonders how the crown could be struggling after seizing the wealth of House Wolves. He remembers how poorly dressed Rihanna looked when she visited him, and wonders if their family truly had far less wealth than expected. In the end, Logan sighs and decides not to complain to his master. However, Felix soon delivers incredible news. The king has agreed to exempt Terrence from all taxes for the next 10 years. Logan is so shocked and thrilled that he nearly crushes the communication orb in his hand. When Felix asks about the cracking sound he heard, Logan quickly dismisses it and requests that the tax exemption be officially written into law. Felix promises to take care of it. Logan then sets the orb aside and celebrates, while Felix wonders where Logan suddenly disappeared. Before ending the conversation, Felix insists that Logan visit the capital in a few months for a private discussion. When Logan asks if the matter is too sensitive to discuss through the orb, Felix confirms that it is. Logan agrees to the meeting, and once the connection ends, he bursts into celebration over Terrence's tax-free future. A little later, Clayton approaches Logan, who is still visibly excited. Clayton hesitates before speaking. After nervously rubbing the back of his neck, he explains that if the mind is properly developed, and they maintain a steady supply of mana stones in the future, he hopes a portion of those resources could be allocated to the Magic Tower. Logan immediately agrees without hesitation. Clayton is stunned by how easily Logan accepts the request. Logan explains that the Magic Tower and the workshop will receive the first share of mana stones, while the remaining supply will be sold through secret channels. Clayton becomes overwhelmed with happiness and clasps his hands together, excitedly saying that they will become the first tower with such access. Logan places a reassuring hand on Clayton's shoulder and reminds him that the Earth Magic Tower and House McLean are partners for life. Seeing Clayton's so emotional, Logan adds another suggestion. Clayton should consider relocating the Magic Tower directly to Terrence. Having the mana stones close at hand would make research much easier. Of course, Logan secretly hopes this will also accelerate research on the Crownet project. Clayton, deeply moved by the offer, promises to seriously consider moving the tower. Meanwhile, Hammer is far less thrilled about the idea of sharing the city with a group of wizards. He asks Logan why the Magic Tower must be involved after he has already finished planning everything for the workshop. Logan quickly tries to persuade him by describing a grand vision. In the future, Terran will become a massive mining city, with Hammer's legendary workshop standing at its very center. The Magic Tower and the workshop will cooperate to mass-produce top-tier magical artifacts. Logan tells Hammer that he will become the master of this legendary facility. As Hammer imagines this future, he begins daydreaming. In his mind, dwarves are cheering his name while praising him as the great workshop master. Hammer, the legendary craftsman who turned Terran into the greatest city of artisans on the continent. He imagines dwarven warriors celebrating him, beautiful dwarf women admiring him, and craftsmen from across the land praising his achievements, completely lost in the fantasy of becoming a living legend, while Logan also praises, saying Hammer is so cool. Hammer then proudly laughs and agrees to redesign the entire plan immediately. Watching him rush off enthusiastically, Logan smirks to himself, noting just how easy it is to motivate a dwarf when you promise him glory. Sometime later in the office, Hammer stood in front of Logan and began giving the report for the second week of Terran's construction. He explained that the construction of the key outer fortress points was mostly finished, and the houses for the workers were already completed. He also said that the preparation for the mine development was nearing completion as well. Logan stood across the table listening and told him that as expected of Hammer, his work was amazing. Logan then stepped closer and placed his hand on Hammer's shoulder as if he was about to ask something. He paused for a moment and raised one finger, while explaining that behind the northern mountain range there was the Tenon River and to the south flowed the Luther River. Hearing this, Hammer immediately started to panic as he asked what about that and why he was bringing it up. Logan remained cheerful and said that if a dam was built connecting those two rivers, then Terran would become truly prosperous. At that moment, Hammer realized the scale of the work behind that idea, and his mind went blank from the pressure. He grabbed his head and panicked and kept repeating that he did not know what to do. Logan still had a smile on his face and asked what was wrong, while reminding him that the Grand Magic Workshop Master's base would become prosperous. Hammer, however, had already dropped to his knees and kept complaining in frustration as he saw Logan as nothing less than a devil. That Magic Stone Mine, the development of Terran and Crownit's research were all progressing as planned. Logan understood that once these were completed, the territory's development to stand against the Empire would finally be finished. What remained after that was gathering information and strengthening the kingdom's military power. He held his chin and felt a sense of amusement as he thought about how 4 years ago everything had felt completely hopeless. The situation back then had been unstable and uncertain, yet now things were finally moving forward in a clear direction. But in the middle of that thought, he suddenly stopped himself and forced his mind to settle down. He reminded himself that he needed to stay calm in moments like this, and that he could not afford to repeat the same mistakes as before. He kept telling himself to stay calm again and again. However, his face did not reflect any of that calmness. Instead, his expression turned into something far more sinister. Watching him like that, Hammer completely lost his composure. Panic took over his mind, and he shouted loudly, convinced that his master had finally gone crazy. The scene then shifted to the king's palace, where the king sat inside, continuously drinking as he chugged his alcohol again and again without stopping. After a while, he placed his glass on the table and looked ahead where his butler Cleo was standing. He asked about the drink, saying it tasted good, and wanted to know its name. Cleo, holding the bottle in his hands, explained that it was called Flamma, and that it was one of the Empire's finest wines. Hearing the name, the king reacted with slight surprise, as Cleo calmly poured him another glass and added that Flamma meant flame in an ancient language. The word flame triggered a thought in the king's mind, and his expression shifted slightly. He held his drink for a moment, and then calmly asked Cleo what he thought about Logan McLean. Cleo was clearly surprised by this sudden question, but still answered properly, explaining that Logan McLean had ended the Civil War and was the greatest contributor who placed the king on the throne. The king agreed with that statement, and admitted that Logan was someone he should be grateful to, and someone he should thank. However, deep down, he felt that something about Logan was off, and it left him with a strange and uneasy feeling. Trying to relieve that tension, the king decided to take a walk through the palace and was accompanied by the Esperanza Knight Louise, along with several other high-ranking knights for security. As he walked through the palace grounds, he felt that the fresh air helped him calm down a little. His thoughts returned to Logan McLean as he reflected on his own behavior, thinking that he might have been too sensitive about Logan's actions recently. Even during the meeting, he had failed to control his expression when Logan was mentioned, and the ministers had noticed it. Even the royal advisor Felix Esperanza seemed to have picked up on it. Thinking about his late father, he admitted to himself that he still had a long way to go. Suddenly, a sound came from the bushes, and in the next instant, several black-cloaked figures launched an ambush on the king. Louise immediately recognized them as assassins and prepared himself while one of them gave a clear command to kill the king. At that signal, all of them rushed forward at once. Louise ordered the other knights to focus on protecting the king while he moved to intercept the attackers. He quickly assessed their strength and counted 3 high-level and 15 mid-level enemies. Without hesitation, he charged up his. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and subscribe to Amazing Apai. Subscribing makes sure you do not miss the next video, and it gives me motivation to keep improving the quality of every upload. Thank you for being here, and I will see you in the next one.